1. Wenatchee, Washington, November 13th, 2022. Chief, we've got a bad situation. James Fry, the God-fearing chief of the Moscow, Idaho Police Department, picks up the call from Captain Tyson Barrett, informing him of a mass homicide, 4 murders at 1122 King Road. Barrett has the inside track. Ava and Emily, 2 of the kids in the group sitting outside the rental house, work at the football stadium. The Kibbe Dome is under Barrett's purview, so he knows them well. It's Sunday, and Fry is about an hour into the 4-hour drive back from an overnight visit with a friend in Wenatchee, Washington, 150 miles east of Seattle. Whatever has happened, whoever the victims are, it already feels too close for comfort. In the passenger seat, listening, is Julie Fry. The chief's whip-smart wife of 30-odd years also happens to be the newly elected Leta County clerk. Chief Fry will later say he should have let Julie drive, but now it's all he can do to absorb what Barrett tells him. 4 young people, likely UI students, stabbed in their bedrooms? In their beds? In a residence that's part of a large cluster of student housing right on the campus line? And no one heard a thing? Fry's put in 30 years on the force. The common assumption about small-town police chiefs is that they have no experience with murder. But this is not Fry's first brush with homicides on campus. In 2007, when he was still a sergeant, he worked on 3 homicides in just 1 year. One involved a University of Idaho student, David Boss, who was shot by a former classmate. In 2011, as a lieutenant, Fry oversaw the investigation of another university tragedy. That summer, psychology professor Ernesto Bustamante, who had a history of mental illness, fatally shot Katie Benoit, a 22-year-old graduate student he'd previously dated, outside her home, then, later, turned the gun on himself. Even so, Fry already knows that this one is different. He knows this is going to test the department in an unprecedented way. He also knows that this is too big for Moscow to handle without help. In a rural area like this, there's a general view that it's all hands on deck. He's going to need support from the state, probably the FBI. But first things first. It's not his job to run point at the scene of the crime. When he was a detective, which was not so long ago, he headed up investigations. But now he's chief, and chiefs who get in the way of their teams can really screw things up. His role today is to stay in close touch with his officers, provide whatever support is needed. Part of leading, Fry believes, is trusting and delegating. But Fry knows that when adrenaline is running high, anyone can forget things. So he rattles off a punch list to Tyson Barrett, realizing from experience that his captain is out in front of him. "Have you reached Bill?" he asks, referring to veteran county prosecutor Bill Thompson, who has never lost a case. In their parallel careers, the chief and the prosecutor have worked every crime scene together. They meet every single day at 8 a.m. Fry's belief in Thompson, the only prosecutor in Idaho who has ever won a murder conviction in the absence of a dead body, is unwavering. "On his way," Barrett says. "Forensics?" The 2 forensics officers, Lawrence Mowry and Andrew Fox, are Fry's appointments. "State?" A scene as big as this needs help from the Idaho State Police forensics team, based in Lewiston, about 30 miles south of Moscow. "On their way." "Who have you got there?" Barrett tells him that Mitch Nunes was the first officer on scene. And at this, Fry blanches. "My heart broke," he said later. His 37-man department runs like a family. 22-year-old Nunes is like a son to Fry, a baby. He knows that his youngest officer will never be able to erase from his mind the horrific crime scene that he's just witnessed, that he will be forever altered. And Fry will need to find Nunes and his wife the resources to cope with the trauma. Mental health is not something that was discussed when Fry was a rookie, and he believes that was a mistake. PTSD, according to Fry's longtime ride-along partner and best friend, Paul Kwiatkowski, lingers as he sorts through memories that won't dim. Fry is going to take care of his young officers and their families, make sure they feel supported. Speaking of, has the university been notified? Affirmative. Where's Brett Payne? 2 months prior, Fry promoted Brett Payne, a 32-year-old cop and military veteran whom he hired in 2020, to detective corporal, a new position in the department that Fry created for a reason. Ordinarily, detectives are the higher rank of sergeant, but Fry had been faced with a specific set of challenges. He had to run a small department at a time when applications for jobs in law enforcement were dwindling. This was shortly after an officer in Minnesota had been convicted in the death of George Floyd. The chief decided to free up some of the sergeants to learn the administrative part of police work, how to actually run a department, pay bills, budget, and so forth. Which means today, Fry realizes, Payne will be the one to lead this investigation, organize the department into teams. Talk about diving into the deep end. Tyson responds that yes, Payne is on his way to the crime scene. He'll get there at around 4 p.m., which will be ahead of Fry. He presses harder on the gas and dials a number. Rand, he says into the phone to Dr. Rand Walker, a local therapist who has counseled his officers before. I need you to be on standby. The rest of the drive is a blur of staccato calls. Chief Gary Jenkins, the head of the Washington State University Police over in Pullman and former chief of the Pullman PD, phones. Do you need backup from us? Jenkins asks. The two departments often tag team. Moscow's last convicted murderer, John Lee, had in fact been caught on the run by the officers in Pullman. But Fry is cautious. In 2015, they knew who the murderer was. This time, they have no idea. Fry is aware of the importance of locking down an investigation, keeping information on a need-to-know basis to stop leaks that could jeopardize it. He and Bill Thompson are completely in sync on this. Thompson never speaks to anyone about an investigation until he gets to sentencing, and even then, he keeps it short. And there are too many unanswered questions right now. It's not safe or prudent for Fry to involve another team. Not yet, Fry tells Jenkins. I'll keep you posted. Barrett's shared with Fry that a knife sheath was found in one of the rooms. It's imperative this doesn't get out. Somewhere, there's a maniacal murderer on the loose who is almost certainly watching their every move. Who in God's name could have done this? Fry wonders. And again, he presses harder on the gas. One good thing about being the police chief is that no one is likely to arrest him for speeding. 2. 1 hour later. The notifications about death are the thing Chief Fry dreads most in this job. It takes seconds to give or receive the news, yet the needlessly lost lives haunt his dreams. He can recall each and every one as he hurtles toward Moscow. Take January 22nd, 2013, nearly a decade ago. He'd been a lieutenant. A couple had shown up at the station, wondering anxiously where their son was. A Latah County Sheriff's deputy had found a body the next day and called it in. The corpse had been on the ground for 2 days. It looked like the kid, a college student named Joseph Wiederick, had frozen to death. He'd been intoxicated. The department spread out, trying to piece together what had happened, and Fry became the point person for the kid's parents. Notifying parents of the loss of their children is something you never get better at. And tragically, student deaths are not that unusual. There's one practically every semester. Typically, it's the result of a car accident that occurs during the long drive most of the kids take to cross the state in treacherous conditions in winter. One year, Fry taught a class up at the university, and right before Thanksgiving break, he told his students, "Remember, drive extra slow. Your parents don't care what time you get there. They just want you there." Fry may be a cop, but he's also a husband and the father of 4 kids, 3 daughters and a son. "I understand what that's like as a parent, to drop a child off," he'll say. He knows that parents expect their kids to be safe in college, and he also knows that sometimes they aren't. The tragedy with young Joseph Wiederick was a double whammy for Fry, because it seemed like no one in the community helped the kid out by notifying law enforcement that he was in trouble on the night he ended up dying. His body was found 2 miles from town. 2 miles. Fry knew that someone must have spotted the drunk kid while he was walking. Sure enough, when all the details about Wiederick's final night were in, and when Fry put together a map for Joseph's mom, Michelle, it emerged that Joseph walked a circuitous 8 miles before lying down to rest one last time. Various people in the town did see the kid. They could have helped him by calling the MPD when he stumbled into their backyards or, in a few cases, into their homes. Instead, they just watched him or sent him on his way. One lady later said, "I just didn't want to get him in trouble." Joseph would have been in trouble. He would have been locked up and most likely given a criminal citation, but nothing more. Fry tells everyone he works with that the key to serving the community is respect, respect, respect. "You ever see the movie Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze?" he'll ask people. If they haven't, he tells them to watch it. The movie's message is his message, the one he instills in his officers. Be nice, be nice, be nice. And until it's time not to be nice, be nice. If you treat people with respect, even when you arrest them, they'll thank you. But in 2013, the town's residents seemed unaware of the chief's message of police compassion. The tragic story of Joseph Wiederick that he put together went something like this. On January 20th at 2 a.m., a Moscow woman hears a noise downstairs. She goes to take a look. Is it an animal? It's a human. A drunk human. An 18-year-old man, clearly disoriented, smelling of alcohol, his blonde hair disheveled, is stumbling around in her basement. She doesn't know how he got in. He's lost. "Safe, safe," he mumbles to her. It's clear he wants to stay, sleep it off. But she asks him to leave. He'll figure it out. No need to call the police. It's black outside, snowdrifts piled high, but students often wander drunk, a nuisance with their noise and their parties. Joseph shuffles off down Highland Drive. 3 a.m. Bang, bang. He's knocking on another door, this one on Mountain View Road. The owner looks through the window. "Go home," he says to the kid. Again, there's no call to the police. The townsfolk think they're protecting him. It's a mistake. 4 a.m. Bang, bang. A third homeowner looks out the window, shrugs, and goes back to bed. Joseph wanders away. He's trying to get back to his dorm, but has no idea where he's headed. Somehow, he ends up near Paradise Creek, 2 miles north of the city. Joseph trips and falls. He hits the frozen creek. His body sinks like a dead weight through the ice into the frigid water. He fights. He climbs out. He crawls under a nearby bridge. And rests. And rests. His body is discovered by police 2 days later. It emerges that Joseph Wiederick had drunk too much at a Saturday night party given by the Sigma Alpha Epsilon fraternity. Fry doesn't like to toot his own horn, but he reckons that since he became chief in 2016, attitudes in town have changed about a lot of things, including over-the-top college drinking. He isn't stupid enough to think you can stop college kids from drinking, but he believes you can take steps to keep it in check. You can, for example, go, as he does, to Rosar's, look at the keg list, and figure out where each keg is. If a keg is somewhere it isn't supposed to be, if, say, it's with a group of underage kids, you take it away. Nicely, but that's what you do. One time, Fry and the guys took 42 cases of Keystone Light away from a fraternity party because they saw a 19-year-old pushing the cart. So yes, you've got to teach them that the law is the law. If Fry and his ride-along partner, Captain Paul Kwiatkowski, had been called to deal with drunk Joseph Wiederick, sure, they might have locked him up, but he'd have still had his life ahead of him. Fry is upset that people in Moscow don't get that. "What else can we do?" he asked Paul one time. "Keep going," his friend and colleague said. "Don't give up." The two guys had looked at the framed quotations on Fry's wall. The chief knows them by heart, but he still reads them every day. The first is from Philippians chapter 4, verse 7. "And the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds." The second is from a Theodore Roosevelt speech on citizenship. In April 1910, after finishing his second term as U.S. president, Roosevelt delivered the Man in the Arena speech at the Sorbonne in Paris. He was on his way to Oslo, Norway, to officially accept the Nobel Peace Prize, which he had been awarded in 1906 for his efforts to end the Russo-Japanese War. "The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat." Fry thinks about those words, who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly. So as the chief reaches the city's outskirts, he takes a deep breath. He knows that with this startlingly awful and strange case, now more than ever, he needs to get a critical message through. The Moscow police, on his watch, are to be trusted, not feared. 3. 1122 King Road, Moscow, Idaho, 2 hours earlier. Officer Nunes radios the police station and reaches Sergeant Shane Gunderson, who's been taking advantage of his quiet Sunday morning shift to plan a hiking trip to Mount Bora, on the other side of the state. "This is serious," Nunes tells him. Gunderson snaps out of his boredom, leaps into his car, and heads for King Road. As he rides, he phones Tyson Barrett. His boss, the commander of the campus police, is on call that day. Barrett says he's already sent patrol officers Smith and Warner to join Nunes, who's taping off the area around the house. Barrett knows what to do, and not just because he's an experienced cop. He was the sergeant assigned to Moscow's previous famous homicide, the case of John Lee, a mentally ill man who went on a shooting spree in January 2015, killing 3 people, including his adoptive mother. But Barrett has another advantage here. He's a vandal, the name of the school's athletic teams, a nickname that comes from a long-ago U of I basketball team said to have vandalized its opponents. He knows the school, the students, the faculty, the administration, the culture. He's been attached to the university on and off for years. He worked it years ago as a sergeant. His daughter is a student. When Barrett arrives, he recognizes Ava Wood, a neighbor who rushed out with blankets for the group of students sitting in front of the house at 1122 King Road. "Do you know the people inside, Ava?" Barrett asks. She nods, and Barrett looks at her, eyes filled with sympathy. And then he turns to the front door. All those years of training and experience kick in. He runs through his checklist. 1. Clear the residence and run tape around the perimeter. Check. 2. Call for medical assistance if needed. There is no need. 3. Secure the scene. Check. Nunes has put up the tape. Barrett assigns one cop to watch the front of the house, another the back. 4. Call in the detectives who will lead the investigation. There'll be 5 detectives: John Lawrence, who is about to retire, Danny Vargas, Brett Payne, Detective Corporal, and forensics detectives Lawrence Mowry and Andrew Fox. Barrett knows it's important to call only those cops who will play essential roles. With each body comes the risk of contaminating evidence. 5. Notify the police chief. 6. Notify the county prosecutor, Bill Thompson. 7. Notify the other Moscow PD captains, Anthony Dollinger and Roger Lanier. 8. Call the sergeant running the Idaho State Police detectives. Moscow is going to need the state police's forensics team at a bare minimum. This is too big for the MPD to handle alone. State has a forensics lab. Moscow does not. 9. Call the university's president, provost, and dean of students. 10. Call the coroner, but not until all the evidence is collected. Someone might accidentally move something and contaminate the scene. 11. Notify the public if there is a threat. Barrett knows not just from his years of experience, but from common sense, that the probability of some random stranger knifing 4 people to death in their bedrooms is almost nil. There's a connection somewhere between whoever did this and at least one of the victims. There always is. That's what the police are going to have to find. The patrol officers correctly begin with the people in front of them. Why is this young student, Hunter Johnson, holding a kitchen knife? What happened here? Hunter sits with the patrol officers and tells them what happened as best he knows. They let him go. Sirens start to wail. But the first emergency vehicle that arrives is unnecessary. It's the volunteer ambulance, the medical responders to the 911 call. It stays a couple of minutes, then, at the cop's request, leaves. It's much too late for anyone to need medical attention. Part 1. The Innocents. Chapter 1. Moscow, Idaho, August 18th, 2019. It's bid day at the University of Idaho. Kaylee Gonsalves and Maddie Mogan chose the University of Idaho precisely because of its strong Greek life. Nearly 1/4 of UI students take part. The 2 look alike, blonde, Maddie's is natural, Kaylee's is dyed, best friends, both freshmen, take their seats in the auditorium. They glance nervously at the throng of women packed around them like canned sardines, all clutching envelopes. Inside each is the name of the sorority the student has gotten into. Kaylee's and Maddie's top choice is Alpha Phi, or A-Phi, as it's known. As one of its members described the sorority, it's a place for blondes, for homecoming queens, for popular girls, leaders, girls who like to party, and to get ready to party. Last night, to help the newcomers make up their minds, the sororities invited the women to so-called preference ceremonies at their top choices. At A-Phi, one of the sisters told a sad but moving story. Her boyfriend, a football star, had tragically lost his battle with cancer, and the support of the house was what got her through. Both girls know that Greek life isn't just about parties. The friendships and networks and bonds formed in each house are an important factor in most students' social and, later, professional lives. Maddie wants a career in marketing, Kaylee in IT. Kaylee and Maddie drove to campus together and spent the past few days rushing together, and the past 6 years doing everything together. Maddie has been entering Kaylee's house without knocking, just like she's part of Kaylee's noisy, happy, hectic, vast family since they were both 12 years old. Maddie is more of a girly girl than Kaylee, who used to be a bit of a tomboy. Kaylee is more of an extrovert than Maddie, and maybe more of a hustler. She's had to be to get what she wants, given the size of the Gonsalves household. Kaylee has 4 siblings. Maddie is an only child, and her home, by contrast, is quiet. Since their early teens, these two shared summer boat rides on the lake in Coeur d'Alene, winter bathing in the nearby hot springs, trips to Seattle, beach vacations in Puerto Rico, in Grand Cayman, in Hawaii. They've never spent more than a few days apart. Maddie recently heard that UI sororities like to separate girls who know each other well. Apparently, the point of Greek life is to make new friends, not cling to old ones. Here in the auditorium, Maddie waits to learn if Aphie will choose Kaylee over her. It's a daunting moment as the clock ticks on. 20 seconds to go. The hundreds of freshman girls in the auditorium count down together. 10 seconds. 5 seconds. 4. 3. 2. Maddie and Kaylee tear open their envelopes. There are screams all around, women sobbing, running. Maddie's eyes blur with tears. She didn't make Aphie, and Kaylee did. The slip of paper in Maddie's envelope tells her she's been picked by Pi Beta Phi, known as Pi Phi, a perfectly respectable sorority, but not generally considered a top house on campus. Within seconds, there's a stampede for the exit as the women race out to the lawn to find their new sorority sisters standing out there under signs. Here, now, isn't the time to say goodbye, but for Maddie and Kaylee, it's an ending. And it's a beginning. Chapter 2. Moscow, Idaho, August 20th, 2019. Maddie's a talented photographer, and she's done some modeling, so she knows how to make her Instagram seductive. The Pi Phi sisters want to build up their house's reputation so they can be more competitive with the top ones like Aphie. Maddie does her part, creating a scene befitting a Disney movie. 7 beaming modern-day Cinderellas, Maddie among them, pose on the steps of the Pi Phi sorority house in matching white tank tops. The 4 older sisters have on matching pink miniskirts, and the 3 younger girls wear matching denim shorts. The archway behind them is covered with pink balloons. Maddie captions it, "I ran home. Hashtag Pi Beta Phi UI. Kaylee comments, "That's my best friend. I love you so much. For life, baby." Of course, Kaylee knows how disappointed Maddie is, and she hurts because Maddie is hurting. Showing wisdom beyond their years, the friends accept the idea that widening their respective social circles will be good for both of them. In other words, they'll play the game of Greek life. Kaylee can't fail to express her own unmitigated joy about her acceptance into Aphie, which is why she posts a photo of herself smiling with 2 new sorority sisters in front of the Alpha Phi house with the caption, "What Flo Rida said, hashtag welcome to my house," referencing the rapper's 2015 hit, My House. Maddie comments, "So happy for you, bestie." Heart eye emoji, heart eye emoji. Their public Instagrams, TikToks, and Snapchats tell the story of their growing closeness with their new sisters and new best friends. Privately, Kaylee and Maddie remain as tight as ever, quietly maintaining their lifelong bond IRL, in real life, as the expression goes. Maddie's posts reflect her new friendship with sorority sisters Sophia Whitehead, who is in the year above her, and Ashlyn Couch, who, like her, is from Coeur d'Alene. Kaylee's posts show weekend activities, attending U of I football games on campus, traveling to Seattle with her Aphie sorority sisters, and nuzzling her boyfriend, Jack Ducour. What they don't post is pictures with each other. The two keep up this illusion of separateness well into the next semester, when the balloon of unreality surrounding them is abruptly pierced. In March 2020, COVID strikes. Chapter 3. Rathdrum, Idaho, March 2020. At the end of spring break, Kaylee and Maddie both receive emails containing the same instructions. Don't come back to the sorority house. School is going remote. The girls are home in Rathdrum and the neighboring town of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and for them, it's like old times. They have each other, and given the stress surrounding the virus, they decide that pretense, even on social media, is no longer important. The day after Maddie's birthday, May 25th, Maddie May Day, Kaylee posts the first Instagram photo of the two best friends together since their arrival at UI. The two of them are hugging, wearing pretty summer dresses, standing by the lake. "The easiest person to celebrate," Kaylee writes. "Here's to you, my sweet Maddie May." Lips emoji, crossed fingers emoji. Later that summer, Kaylee gives Maddie a shout-out. "At Maddie Mogan, thanks for always being my personal photographer." Heart emoji. It's a source of pride to Kaylee that Maddie has been asked to run the official Instagram account for the Pi Phis. It's a huge honor. It's also an irony. Maddie, initially disappointed to be joining Pi Beta Phi, is now responsible for attracting recruits and making the house look as appealing as Alpha Phi. She's good at this. Thanks to her pretty pictures, despite the isolation of COVID, the number of freshman women interested in joining is climbing. Few people in the Gonsalves family think COVID is the big deal that UI administrators believe it is. The Gonsalves children have been raised not to trust the government or institutions. They are libertarians. They live to bet on themselves. Kaylee's dad, Steve, works in IT at the hospital in Coeur d'Alene, an hour and a half north of Moscow. Over dinners at home, he tells his family that the only people who are dying in the hospital are those who have pre-existing conditions. Mostly, they're obese. He thinks the university is making a mistake not letting the kids back. So does Kaylee. As the weeks stretch on, her frustration grows. Paying to take college classes over Zoom is bad enough, but bills keep coming in from AFI. She's livid that she and her AFI sisters are paying live-in dues for the house they're not allowed to occupy. Following orders unquestioningly is not a Gonsalves thing to do. So Kaylee queries the chapter president. Why are they paying for nothing? If they can't get some of that money returned, Kaylee says, she doesn't want to go back to the house in the fall. The rules are the rules, the president tells Kaylee. The house won't negotiate, especially with a new sister. None of the sisters can move out of the house until they're juniors and have accumulated a certain number of service points. Even then, the AFI admins add another hurdle. Sisters need to pay for both living in and living out. So in late August, Kaylee's stuck, returning to the AFI house and its litany of COVID health and safety protocols. Kaylee doesn't want to do the physical distancing or the regular testing or the mandatory quarantine procedures. Not any of it. But she's Kaylee, so she faces the reset head on, posting, "Now let's get back to it." Lightning emoji, double heart emoji. This year, the girls who are rushing sororities have their smiles hidden behind masks. Coffee meetings are held on Zoom. Hugging is not allowed. Still, Kaylee takes a liking to two of the freshmen. Emma Tiger, a beautiful brunette from Vancouver, Washington, whose soccer career was sidelined by an injury, and Jaden Anderson, a blonde from Spokane. One of the most important rituals among sorority sisters is choosing bigs and littles. A big mentors her chosen little through college, academically and socially. Emma and Jaden are eager to become Kaylee's littles, partly because of her extraordinary enthusiasm and can-do attitude. When Kaylee hears there might be an in-house quarantine one weekend, she whisks Emma and Jaden off home with her to Coeur d'Alene. She takes them shopping, to concerts, for drinks, to coffee. She makes them baskets of goodies. She also was a girl you don't mess with, Emma recalled. Nobody would ever say a bad word about me in front of her because she was not okay with it. If there was some guy that was being rude to me at a party, Kaylee was the first one to say something to him. On Big Little Night in October, Kaylee surprises the two by waiting for them, shrouded in pink wrapping paper, in the parking lot by a large off-campus apartment building known as the Whites. When the two freshmen find Kaylee and unwrap her, their screams of delight echo several blocks away. At this point, the two younger girls are still caught up in the excitement and honor of being accepted into AFI. They don't yet know about the pressure that comes with being in the pretty girl's house. Darker times are just around the corner. Chapter 4. Greek Row, Moscow, Idaho, September 2020. I'm Xana, pronounced Xanax without the X, is how the petite brunette introduced herself to the Pi-Phis on the first day, and everyone laughed. Her name is Xana Kernodle, and she's as irrepressible as Tigger in the Winnie the Pooh books. Always smiling when I'm with my Xan, Maddie captions a pair of Instagram posts of the two of them together on September 11th. Maddie tells Kaylee she is impressed with Xana because, despite her freshman status, she is not afraid of anyone or anything. Xana isn't much used to rules. She grew up in Post Falls, Idaho, pretty much without her mother, Kara, who had been battling drug addiction much of her life and gave up custody of Xana and her sister Jasmine in 2006. Xana adores her dad, Jeff, but he traveled frequently for work, so Xana and Jazzy were often left on their own. Along with her best friend, Emily Alant, a pretty, feisty blonde from Boise and a fellow new Pi-Phi, Xana regularly busts out of the house at night and on the weekends, even though they've both been told to stay inside and stay sober. One evening, Maddie introduces Xana and Emily to a group of Sigma Chi brothers, and she's surprised and amused to discover the two new girls had already met them on an illicit night out. That was pretty cool, actually, Maddie says to Kaylee the next morning. The two are tiring of the enforced restrictions in this life they had once wanted so badly. At AFI, I have a worse deal than you do, Kaylee tells Maddie, who is sympathetic. Under the stress of the COVID restrictions, Kaylee explains, the bitchiness for which the house is infamous is coming to the fore. AFI is turning into a nightmare version of Mean Girls. I hear you, says Maddie. We didn't sign up for this. They begin to discuss their options for living off campus. Kaylee finds an apartment in the Whites. Maddie's got her eye on a house right next to it, 1122 King Road, where some older Pi-Phis like Sophia, her big, and Ashlyn, her best friend in the house, are planning to move. The house sticks up on the hill like a finger. It's got a deck in the back, so it will make a fantastic party space. Even better, Maddie tells Kaylee. It signifies freedom. It's going to be great, she says. Chapter 5. Moscow, Idaho, Valentine's Day, 2021. You forgot your wallet? Maddie asks Jake Schreiger. Maddie is all dressed up, even though it's just breakfast. She's wearing jeans with an oversized beige sweater that falls artfully off her shoulders. It should be obvious to Jake that she's taking this seriously. It's Valentine's Day. She told Kaylee it was a date. She told Xana and Emily it was a date. They're all eager to hear how it goes. And Jake has forgotten his wallet. The guy sitting opposite her in this cute downtown Moscow cafe called the Breakfast Club is a junior in the Delta Tau Delta fraternity who's been hotly pursuing her. Pining for her is how some of her friends put it, for over a year. Maddie always has a lot of admirers. Though Jake is handsome, nice, fun, and a great water skier, for some reason she's always kept him at bay. Maddie has to give the guy credit, though. He's never given up. He's stuck around. He's grown on her, and she's thinking of relenting. Now, he's stuck her with the bill. Maddie can already hear the girls shrieking with laughter. She knows they'll make fun of her. Sure enough, when she tells them, they think it's hilarious. That night, Emily posts a picture of Maddie, all made up, false lashes on, clearly ready to go out, on Snapchat. It's cheekily captioned, "Didn't even pay for the date." Still, the handsome upperclassman succeeds in winning Maddie's affections. Soon after Valentine's Day, Maddie commits to Jake. She stops seeing other guys, and from then on, they're a thing. Just over a year later, on April 27th, she'll post a throwback on Instagram of some of the couple's best times together. Boating in Coeur d'Alene, at the Watershed Music Festival, hanging out at school. Maddie captions the post, "1 year with my best friend. Life is so much sweeter with you in it. Double heart emoji, dove emoji. I love you lots and lots, at Jake Schreiger." Jake will soon be graduating and moving to Boise for a job. Maddie wants to move there too, get a summer job and be with him. Why? Because Jake, she has decided, is her future. Chapter 6. Moscow, Idaho, Fall 2021. Family breakfast is Kaylee's conscious effort to maintain her bonds with her 4 best friends from AFI, Ava, Zoe, Katie, and Phoebe. Kaylee is cooking in the little kitchen in her off-campus apartment at the Whites. The pan is sizzling as the pancakes she's making turn golden brown. They look and smell delicious. She whips out her phone so she can document the moment with an Instagram post. Helping Kaylee out in the kitchen is her boyfriend since middle school, Jack Ducour. Like Maddie, he came to UI mostly because he wanted to be with Kaylee. Jack is living off campus in a house close to Kaylee with a bunch of his Beta Theta Pi fraternity brothers. He and Kaylee go to games together. They share custody of a golden doodle, Murphy. She even includes Jack in her AFI Instagram posts. He's family. Everyone loves Jack. An Idaho all-state tennis player, he has strawberry blonde hair and freckles. In photos, he bears more than a passing resemblance to the Harry Potter character Ron Weasley, but in real life, he is considerably more handsome. Jack is as quiet and calm as Kaylee is effervescent. He's a rock for Kaylee, as long as she wants one. And to be sure, her family and friends have always had the impression that Kaylee decides the tempo and terms of the relationship. Recently, though, there have been small signs of trouble in paradise. Kaylee's been feeling an itch to do things on her own, not because she wants to part from Jack, but because she likes being independent. "Jack, I need 5 hours to get ready," Kaylee will tell him as she sits down at her vanity. That means he needs to go away. And he does. Kaylee has a lot on her mind now that she's finally won her freedom and is living off campus. She wants to travel, to experience the world, to learn what's out there beyond Coeur d'Alene. And she wants to make money. COVID helped expand her professional network online, and she's made connections at Extreme Networks, an IT firm in Austin, Texas, doing work she's interested in pursuing full-time. Her dad and her brother are in IT, so it's in the blood. The job would require a big move, and probably leaving Jack behind. If Jack is serious about her, he might have to play the long game and wait. Which is what he's doing now as she flips pancake after pancake and piles them into a stack. "Almost ready?" Jack asks her. Kaylee pours more batter into the sizzling pan. "It'll be a little while." Chapter 7. Moscow, Idaho, August 2021. Tomorrow is bid day. And Ethan Chapin and his brother Hunter have options. In the freshman dorms, Ethan, all 6'4" of him, turns on the shower, stands under the torrent of hot water, and closes the stall door. He wants a moment of privacy. He wants a moment to mull over the choice he's facing. The Chapin triplets grew up in Mount Vernon, Washington, 2 hours north of Seattle, and they seem to have it all: looks, height, smarts, athletic ability, likability. Ethan is a superb athlete. He played varsity basketball. Hunter was right there with him, but always one step behind, sometimes on the bench. Their blonde sister, Maisie, played varsity soccer. All three of them are first-rate golfers. And all three of them are as tight as can be. They've shared rooms and meals since they were born, before even. During her pregnancy, Stacy Chapin, their mom, used to joke that Hunter, who was born last, was on top, in the penthouse. It's unsaid but understood that whatever choice Ethan makes, Hunter will follow. That's the dynamic of their relationship, always has been. So Ethan is thinking pretty hard about what his decision will be, knowing it affects them both. The obvious choice is Sigma Chi. It's the fraternity for athletes who have smarts. And yet, he's leaning toward Phi Delta Theta, which is, by reputation, a dry house, but it's also known as the stoner gamer house. Not Ethan's thing. But an older Delt has been persuasive. Over several meetings during Rush, Hunter Johnson, who is doing a master's in athletic training, has made an understated yet confident case for Phi Delta Theta by demonstrating qualities that Ethan admires in a brother. Ethan gets out of the shower, still lost in thought. A door bangs open. He looks up. Emerging from the next shower stall is another freshman, Tim DeWolf, a blonde hunk of a varsity basketball and soccer player from Odessa, Washington, a small farming community. DeWolf, who is also 6'4", exudes masculinity. "Hey, Tim," Ethan says. "What house are you going into?" Tim looks at Ethan like he's stupid. "Duh, Sigma Chi," he says. It's the natural fit for athletic dudes like them. "Oh," says Ethan. "Well, I was thinking of Phi Delta Theta because of Hunter Johnson." Hunter Johnson, Ethan feels, has a unique sort of soulful charm. He's a talented guitar player. He's slender yet athletic, but also goofy. But Tim DeWolf is it. Ethan pauses, then says, "But if you're going to Sigma Chi, then I'm going to Sigma Chi." And with that, the angst is over. The decision is made. Chapter 8. Moscow, Idaho, October 3rd, 2021. The doorbell rings at 1118 King Road. The rectangular house with huge windows, a design that inspired the building's nickname, Shark Tank, sits just off campus. The place might as well be called Party Central, because just a few weeks into the fall semester, its 5 occupants, especially Xana and Emily, have become known for hosting the best and most frequent parties at UI. That Sunday morning, a bunch of freshman Sigma Chi brothers are standing there, summoned to get to know the Shark Tank women by playing a game called Champagne Shackles. "Come on in," says Xana. She and Emily grin. They've got the bottles of bubbly ready. And the zip ties. The rules of the game are simple. The ties go around the wrists of a pair, a man and a woman, who have to stay tied together until their bottle of champagne is finished, even when going to the restroom. The tall, dark Chapin brothers, Ethan and Hunter, are easy to spot among the crowd of Sig Chi freshmen. One of Xana and Emily's housemates, Josie, a pretty brunette from Boise, immediately calls dibs on both of them. Xana cracks up. "Josie, can you even tell them apart?" she asks. Excitement builds as they all whip out their phones to take the most embarrassing photos possible for social media. That's part of the fun of this. It's almost the point. Xana has on an eclectic outfit, a psychedelic sun hat that is a mix of bright pinks, purples, and yellows, a yellow bustier, and black jeans. She's in her element, giggling as Emily photographs her sitting on the toilet while the guy she's shackled to, Peter, is stuck on the floor by her side. Sitting in the living room, practically immobilized by the ties for hours, Ethan can't help but notice Xana's effortless magnetism. Xana is the one running the music. DJ Xan, her housemates yell as she changes songs. She's the one in charge of the shambolic wee dancing and making sure everyone has drinks. Xana is the focal point of the party, though she doesn't seem to notice the attention. When the game's over, and the day's finally winding down, Ethan asks Xana about herself. He discovers that Xana is just Xana. She has no big plans, no idea what her future is. She's in the present. She makes no apologies for this. She's the most real person he's ever met. He's hooked. In the next few days and weeks, he often finds himself making the few hundred-yard trek from Sigma Chi to the shark tank. He and Hunter regularly hoist their massive stereo on their broad shoulders and carry it across the lower 40, as the field is called, so DJ Xan can play whatever she wants. In the midst of all the music, the dancing, the talking, he notices that Xana gets some work done by passing her assignment book around and insisting each person take a stab at writing a paragraph. Her spirit is infectious. He's so smitten, he asks Xana to become his big. According to the esoteric fraternity rules, there can be brothers and sisters in different houses, though dating your Greek sibling is considered sort of incestuous. But Xana has never cared about the rules. In early 2022, it starts to become unclear as to when Ethan arrives and when Ethan leaves 1118 King Road. Does he actually go home at night? Or does he sleep over in Xana's room? Anything going on I should know about? Emily asks Xana one morning. Xana shakes her head. She'll speak only when she's 100% sure what she wants to say. Chapter 9. Boise, Idaho, April 2022. It's nearly midnight when Karen Allant wakes to her ringing phone. The caller ID says it's Xana. Karen's blood runs cold, as any mother's would. Is Xana okay? Is her daughter Emily okay? She picks up, panicked. Mama Karen, guess what? Says Xana casually, as if the late hour were completely irrelevant. Xana, you scared me half to death. Do you know what time it is? Karen asks. Xana just laughs. Karen relaxes in spite of herself. How distinct and rich and simply full of joy Xana's laugh is. I want you to be the first to know. I've got a boyfriend. Karen giggles at the needlessness of this conversation. It's been obvious to everyone that Xana and Ethan are on the cusp of something, but she plays the game. How did the talk go? Did you guys sit down and discuss it seriously? Xana spills the details. No, it was easy. We didn't need a big talk. It just happened naturally. Xana is a free spirit. Karen sees the relationship as a sign she's growing up. In fact, all the Shark Tank girls are growing up, forming committed attachments. Emily has begun to date Hunter Johnson. Josie is seeing another Delt, Lyndon Beck. Karen is thrilled that Xana feels able to share this moment with her. She has developed strong maternal feelings toward this exuberant, effervescent young woman who is so passionate, so resilient, so unself-pitying, despite a difficult upbringing. Xana doesn't talk much about having grown up without a mother, but the signs of loneliness are there for them all to see. Emily could sense that Xana's home life wasn't exactly the most orderly. Sometimes Xana drives over to Pullman, where her older sister, Jasmine, Jazzy, is studying marketing at Washington State. Jazzy, petite and pretty, is the sensible one. Xana idolizes her big sister and wants to follow in her footsteps. Jazzy also has nice stuff, so when Xana and Emily visit her in her dorm room, Emily knows she's supposed to chat with Jazzy to distract her, while Xana filches a shirt or whatever she needs from her sister's closet. In the Pi-Fi house, Xana has mismatched bedding, few clothes. Emily teaches Xana how to do her makeup, how to use a curling iron, skills that the other girls learned years ago, but that no one has ever taught Xana. Before their first Christmas break, Emily noticed that Xana was the only one not packing. "Xana," she said, "where are you going for winter break?" Xana shrugged and said she didn't know. Her dad, Jeff, might not be home. She didn't know his new girlfriend, and she didn't much like her room in the basement. That first Christmas, Emily invited her home to Boise to hang with her parents, Matt, an Army veteran, and Karen, a pretty blonde who was a dead ringer for her daughter. At first, the Allants didn't know what to make of this free-spirited young woman their daughter had brought home. But Xana, with her expressive hand movements, her open personality, had a talent for winning people over, making everyone laugh. Now, Xana regularly stays with the Allants during breaks. Karen looks forward to their 11 p.m. phone calls. She comes to visit the girls in the Shark Tank and goes out with them sometimes. Karen starts to consider Xana a second daughter. After Xana hangs up with Karen, she finds Emily and gives her the news. "You told my mom first, you bitch," Emily says with a laugh, then gives Xana a hug. Chapter 10. Priest Lake, Idaho, summer 2022. It's 4 p.m., and Ethan Chapin is finishing up his shift as a server at the Hills Resort restaurant, nestled on beautiful Priest Lake up in the Idaho mountains. The sparkling water, with its snow-crested surroundings, got its name from the Jesuit missionaries who once lived near there. The Chapins have two homes, one in Mount Vernon, near Seattle, and a summer house on Priest Lake. His mom came here as a little girl, and he and his family have been coming here all his life. There's nowhere Ethan would rather be. He yells to Hunter, and the two head to his favorite place within his favorite place. The resort's sand volleyball court, right on the shore, in front of the resort's bar and restaurant. The community is tight. No one locks their doors. People call one another by their first names. Ethan knocks on the door of Cabin 101, which belongs to the Xylac family. It's a running joke that the Xylacs are uber competitive. Ethan's ideal matchup is the 6 Xylac kids versus everyone else. Whatever the numbers, he finds a way to make a game of it. Once on the volleyball court, he strips off his shirt and takes his position. He and Hunter hit the ball back and forth over the net, while a little crowd, including their parents, Jim and Stacy, and, this summer, Xana, gathers to watch the magnificent sight of Ethan in full athlete mode. He jumps, he sets, he dives, he spikes. A mythic Greek god in action. Ethan made varsity basketball as a high school freshman, but COVID restrictions deprived him of crucial competitive seasons that would have prepped him to play at the college level. Over the summer, the Chapin triplets worked at Hills Resort, which was full to bursting with people wanting a rural escape. This time together made the trio realize that they wanted to attend the same college, and they needed it to be east of the mountains, and they wanted to be involved in Greek life, to keep the small family feeling that they were used to at home. UI was an easy decision. WSU felt vast when they visited. By comparison, Greek Row at UI felt so small and bucolic, it was like a private school. Their mom, Stacy, a former school principal and a Greek life alum at the University of Puget Sound, was relieved that her children would experience the safety net and type of community that had been such a welcome part of her own college years. Now, As Stacy watches her son leap around on the volleyball court, she's filled with pride. UI has been exactly the nurturing place she wanted for them. They're thriving. Her husband, Jim, who believes Stacy's judgment is consistently rock solid, agrees. After the game, Jim, Stacy, Hunter, Maisie, Ethan, and Xana sprint to the boat Jim recently bought to satisfy his kids' love of the water. They turn the music up high, blasting out Morgan Wallen's latest album, and Jim drives the boat while the kids take turns wakeboarding and sipping drinks from the cooler. Ethan and Hunter love boarding so much that early every morning they stuff their work clothes into their backpacks and go out on the water, coming back with only 5 minutes to spare before their shifts. Jim drops them at the dock, and they sprint barefoot to their posts. This summer, Ethan has been inseparable from Xana, who's been staying with the Chapins most of the time. Stacy can see immediately that her son is serious about this carefree young woman. The Chapins happily welcome her as one of their own. Changes are ahead for the upcoming fall semester. Xana is moving from the Shark Tank into a rental house on King Road. Stacy and Jim have rented Ethan an apartment in Moscow. The Sigma Chi president told Ethan that frat brothers who are double deficient, that is, with a GPA below 2.75 for 2 consecutive semesters, have to live outside the house. Stacy's only concern about her oldest triplet is how far his grades have slipped. Though she suspects Ethan will stay most nights with Xana, she knows that the forced separation from his fraternity brothers will motivate him to raise his grades high enough to return to the Sigma Chi house. In the boat, the wind whips up, and the sun slowly starts to redden and sink low into the horizon. Jim turns the boat toward the shore. Ethan turns the volume 1 notch higher, and they head home listening to Morgan Wallen's Heartless. If this isn't paradise, Stacy thinks, then what is? Chapter 11. Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, July 31st, 2022. The room is spinning, like it often does when Xana has had one too many White Claws, which she has today, out on the lake. She falls flat on her face, feels the pain immediately. She looks in the mirror. She's chipped her front tooth. Damn. She turns to Emily. She's upset. And not because it's going to cost money to fix the tooth. I don't want to be this person anymore, she tells her understanding friend. Xana is well aware of her reputation as the free-spirited girl in their core friend group. Xana and Ethan, Emily, Hunter Johnson, Josie, Lyndon, Peter Elgoryaga, and Ethan's triplet siblings, Hunter and Maisie. But she wants to change that. Xana wants to grow up. She wants to be someone who fits into the world of Ethan and his parents. The Chapin family is fun, easygoing, but as Xana has seen, their life is different from her hardscrabble existence in her dad's basement. At Priest Lake, the Chapins all play golf on the local course. Xana has never played golf, but the Chapin triplets are really good. They love it, like they love all sports. When Xana first joined them on the course, she found that hitting a golf ball was harder than it looked. Out of mockery for their passion, she threw a club, then took a swig of her drink. Everyone laughed. As Karen Allant, Mama Karen, has noticed, Xana is someone who is prepared to make a total fool of herself in public if it will put someone else at ease. But Xana doesn't want to be the butt of everyone's jokes forever. She never thought about the future before, but now she does. She wants to become a person who is taken more seriously. And she wants to grow old with Ethan. Chapter 12. Moscow, Idaho, June 2022. Maddie can hardly believe it when Kaylee walks through the front door of 1122 King Road. She's pulled it off. Their freshman year bid day, when the best friends were accepted by different sororities, feels like a distant dream. Here they are, in their senior year, finally getting to live together. The timing couldn't be more perfect. Maddie walks to the car and starts helping Kaylee unload boxes and boxes of her stuff. Everyone knows that Kaylee doesn't travel light. She hauls a bag through the sliding glass doors at the back and into her new room. Everyone also knows which room is Maddie's. She's put the letters of her name in the window, and her signature pink cowboy boots sit on the sill. Maddie's vanity is just behind. When it's dark and her lights are on, anyone walking by can see her putting on her mascara. Maddie took over the King Road lease from graduating Pi-Phis, and she's pulled together a great group, her family away from family. Perfect for a year of transition, which is what it's going to be. Jake graduated and is back home in Boise, but their plan is to make it through this year together, long distance. They speak every night at 8. Maddie has been meticulous about keeping the appointment, a source of amusement for her new roommates, who are now all moved in. Xana has taken a room on the main level. Of course, Maddie invited Emily, too, because Xana and Emily are almost as inseparable as Xana and Ethan. But Emily had already made plans to room with Josie, her childhood friend from Boise, next door at the Whites, the building where her boyfriend, Hunter Johnson, has also rented an apartment. So 1122 King Road's other 2 rooms went to 2 blonde Pi-Phi sophomores who finagled a way to move out of the sorority house. Dylan Mortensen, who is Emily's little, and Bethany Funk, Maddie's little. Maddie bangs on each of their doors. "Xana, Dylan, Bethany," she yells. "Photo time!" They groan but accept their fate, and the 5 women in their skimpy, summery dresses gather on the King Road deck. Maddie hands Ethan the camera. They pose, squinting into the afternoon sun. Dylan, Xana, Bethany, Kaylee, Maddie. "Meet the roommates," Maddie captions the photo, and she makes the post public, as she always does. She doesn't think of any risks associated with that. Why would she? The more followers you have, the better for your career in marketing. Maddie's life, in this moment, here and now, is pretty much perfect and going exactly where she wants it to. Chapter 13. Moscow, Idaho. Emily's dream. The following scene, a recurring nightmare, is what Emily later says after she's lost her friends, before justice has brought closure, she imagines could have happened that summer. The details of the surroundings change from dream to dream, but the gist of what happens stays the same. It's the only explanation she can come up with, the only one that makes any sense. It haunts her day and night, because the uncertainty of whether it's real or not real will never go away. Maddie wipes down the table and turns to get fresh cutlery to seat the new customers. As jobs go, waitressing at the Mad Greek is a pretty good gig. The 40-seat restaurant with a vegan-friendly menu isn't one of the more popular ones in Moscow, so servers, all college kids, friends, don't get run off their feet. Maddie's grateful for the pay. She can make as much as $80 per shift, which covers her gas and her Ulta card and the trendy clothes she likes so much. And there's the added bonus that the manager asked her to redo the restaurant's website. Maddie continues laying the table. Then she turns and notices him. Unusual looking, intense, bulging eyes, thin, almost emaciated, and pale, almost ghost white. He's raising his hand. He wants her attention. She smooths her skirt and walks over with a smile. He orders a vegan pizza to go. He's staring at her intently. Maddie is used to male attention, but this time it feels uncomfortable. "I'm Brian," he says. "What's your name?" Maddie hesitates, then tells him. Why wouldn't she? Everyone here knows it. She hands him the check, and as he pays, he asks, "Would you like to go out sometime?" This is an easy one, Maddie thinks. The idea of going out with this strange-looking guy is surreal. He doesn't know it took Jake, her boyfriend, a whole 2 years to become her boyfriend. Maddie is anything but easy, even for guys she likes. And she doesn't know or like this one. She flicks back her hair. No, she says. She smiles, laughs a bit. It's a nervous habit she has, especially with guys she turns down. She doesn't mean anything rude by it. But this guy looks at her strangely, like he doesn't believe what he's hearing. He gets up, slowly, still staring at her, and walks out. Maddie shakes her head and goes about her business. She doesn't give the guy another thought. She doesn't see the guy walk to his car, a white Hyundai Elantra, sit in the driver's seat, and type her name into his phone. Her Instagram, with the photos of her past and present, is there for all to see. Maddie in a bikini, Maddie with her roommates, Maddie and her friends posing in skimpy clothes for a fit check before a night out. Maddie, Maddie, Maddie. He looks. He presses like once, twice, 3 times. And he looks and likes some more. Chapter 14. Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, September 2022. Kaylee stares at the guy on the couch incredulously. Did he really just say that? "Bitch, go make me a quesadilla." Wow. She wishes that she weren't at his house on this awful date. She wishes that she hadn't broken up with Sweet Jack. Maybe she'd been too hasty. Kaylee has erased him from nearly all her social media posts, normal protocol when couples break up. But now she's wondering if Jack might be the nicest guy on the planet, and if most other guys are assholes like this one in front of her. Jack would never have used the B word, she'll later tell her older sister, Olivia. Never. He couldn't even be mean or distant after she broke up with him. If he felt any pain or animosity, he didn't show it. He's just kind, sweet, gentle. He still swings by the King Road house every few days to pick up Murphy, their golden doodle. She texts him about Murphy, telling him she's coming over with the dog or she needs him to come get their pet, but she's never sure if she's reaching out for Murphy or for herself. The truth of it is, Kaylee still loves Jack. She didn't want to hurt him. She didn't even want to part from him. She just wanted a chance to discover herself, to break ties before leaving for a new town in a new state. Kaylee's internship with Extreme Networks, the IT company in Austin, has turned into a full-time job that she now squeezes around her classes. In January, she's headed to Texas to work there on site. She's rightfully proud of her role as a channel manager, which means she comes in after the IT equipment has been sold to a business and explains to the customer how best to use it. She's particularly proud of a winning pitch she made to Coffee Box about where to install Wi-Fi in their stores so customers can easily order on their phones while standing in line. She made a 10-minute video, and despite her lack of experience, the video was singled out by her bosses and sent company-wide. "Kaylee keeps impressing me," Paul Seamack, the head of sales for the Americas, emailed his executive team, and he included a link to the video presentation Kaylee had made, and worked her ass off to get right. Every morning this summer, she's had a preparatory remote session with Olivia, a project manager who lives in LA and buys real estate with an eye to renting the properties out on Airbnb. Olivia is wicked smart, and she's talented with tech. And after Kaylee goes back and forth with Olivia, she checks the lingo with her dad, Steve, whose entire career has been in IT support. So now, she looks at the jerk in front of her who just called her a bitch and told her to make him a quesadilla. No one pushes Kaylee around like that, especially not a guy in a state she's leaving. Kaylee is an independent woman. She makes good money from Extreme Networks and from her tips at La Casa Lopez, a Mexican joint in Moscow. And she spends her own money, $300 a week, on the gym and meal plans. She knows she's looking her best right now. Kaylee doesn't like this guy. She doesn't need any guy, except maybe Jack, who she's gonna phone when she gets home. She's gonna phone Olivia, too, and tell her that. She looks at this dude one more time. What a prick. You can make your own quesadillas. She gets up, she grabs her purse, and she walks out. On the drive home, she looks forward to the weekend back on campus and reenacting this scene for her new roomies. She can already see Xana roaring with laughter and Maddie, Riley, throwing her hands in the air. Yes, she thinks, they will have plenty to say about it when she tells them. Kaylee, they'll cry, pretending to be exasperated. Why is there always so much drama around you? Chapter 15. Moscow, Idaho, September 1st, 2022. Xana is waiting in her dark blue Honda for Karen, Emily's mom, at the little airstrip that is the Pullman-Moscow Regional Airport. She's excited. She wants to show off her progress to the woman she considers the mom she never had. It's just a 10-minute trip to Xana's new place. Xana shows Karen her room on the main level of 1122 King Road. Karen admires the bedding, which now matches. Xana says she saved money this summer and opened a bank account, something Emily joked she'd never do. At Maddie's suggestion, she joined the staff at the Mad Greek and makes $80 or so a shift. She shows Karen the wall mirror she bought with some of her earnings. Karen is proud of Xana, who is beaming. She tells Karen she loves her new roomies. But it's a bittersweet moment because for the first time in 3 years, Emily is living separately from Xana, albeit not far away, just across the street from where Emily is rooming with Josie at the Whites. Xana still sees Emily every day, and Karen heads over there now. Later that evening, Xana and Ethan drop by Emily's apartment, as they always do after a long day, to decompress and gossip. Karen is in her PJs. She recalled, Ethan sits down on the corner of Emily's sectional couch, and instead of sitting on the couch, Xana sits on top of him. She snuggles. She's happy. And she's telling us all about her day and what they did and da-da-da-da-da, who said this, everything. Karen couldn't look away from the comic visual of the effervescent, gesticulating woman sitting on top of her patient boyfriend. It was like a sketch out of Saturday Night Live. Karen said, finally he says, geez, woman, stop wiggling. And she just throws her head back and laughs like she normally does, and just goes on, doesn't even miss the beat. It doesn't even faze her at all. She just keeps wiggling and talking. She laughs at him and he just laughs back. And he just continues to let her sit there and wiggle all over him, even though he is so uncomfortable, obviously. But he is so patient with her and he adores her. The bottom line was clear, not just to Karen, but to Emily, Hunter Johnson, Josie, and Lyndon, all of whom were assembled in the room that night. Ethan would rather have Xana wiggling on his lap than be sitting anywhere else. Chapter 16. Moscow, Idaho, October 27th, 2022. After the roommates have a rare dinner at home together, Kaylee brings them into the living room. It's time, says Kaylee, to memorialize our group in our house on TikTok. Their house on 1122 King Road has become, on their watch, a UI fixture. It might not surpass the Shark Tank's legendary reputation as a party house, but it's still a place where people want to come, relax, have a drink, usually a shot offered by Xana and Ethan, and kick back. The view through the sliding doors is perfect for stargazing. You can stare at the trees and down the winding road for an ever-present reminder that there's another world, called reality, beyond the college bubble. In just a few weeks, Kaylee will graduate and leave to begin her new journey in the real world. In anticipation of Thanksgiving, when Olivia will be back, she's spending most of her time in Rathdrum and taking many of her classes remotely. They come up with a commemorative screenplay, the roommates pretending to be each other. It's like charades, with clues drawn from invented scenes that highlight each friend's character. Ready? Go, says Kaylee. First up is Maddie pretending to be Kaylee. She stomps up the stairs and complains of a dank smell. Murphy, you've been a bad boy. She pretends to chastise the dog for pooping indoors. Next is Xana pretending to be Dylan. She comes out of her room, backpack on, flustered. Fuck, it's 9:10. Guys, can anyone drive me to class? I'm fucking late for my meeting. I was supposed to be there 10 minutes ago. Next, Kaylee pretends to be Xana. She anxiously grabs a broom and starts to sweep frantically. Did anyone do their chores today? She doesn't wait for an answer. Ugh, I'm just gonna do it. Next up is Bethany pretending to be Maddie. Shit, you guys, it's 8. Gotta go, Jake's calling. She stands up from the couch where they're all sitting and heads for the door, repeating, Jake's calling. Next up is Josie, standing in for Dylan, pretending to be Bethany. She looks at a photo of herself on her phone and grimaces, Oh my God, you look horrid. Xana is now Dylan. She cuddles up to Murphy before realizing the dog smells rank. Oh my God, Murphy, you are so cute. And then, putting the dog down, she exclaims, Oh my God, you've got to get out of here. You've seriously got to get out of here. Now, Bethany is Kaylee. She reads a text in front of the group. Hey guys, I know I talk about myself a lot, but seriously, what would you guys do in my situation? Now Maddie is Xana, headed downstairs. I've got to go do a test, she says. I've failed 2 of them already. And now Maddie is Bethany. Is anyone doing a wine night? Let's just do a wine night. Dylan being Xana. Dude, is it okay if I throw a party? Just 3 or 4 people, at most. They do several takes and several edits before declaring themselves happy with the video that Kaylee then posts. Whatever happens in the future, she'll always have this to hold on to. This picture of this house and the 5 of them in it. Chapter 17. Moscow, Idaho, November 5th, 2022. The week after the Chapin triplets celebrate their 20th birthdays, it's family weekend at the University of Idaho. Stacy and Jim Chapin are in Moscow buying their kids mimosas for breakfast. The 3 are still as close as they were growing up. Xana is excited for them to meet her dad, Jeff, who lives in Arizona but is putting in an appearance. Stacy can see how happy Ethan is with Xana. Stacy can also see the signs that their kids are becoming independent adults. When the weekend is over, as Stacy and Jim drive away from campus, Stacy shares a realization with her husband. The Chapin triplets are maturing into giving, thoughtful people, and it's clear that they're almost ready to lead their own lives. For parents, this is a milestone, a bittersweet turning point that all parents hope and dread they'll face. Our job is done, Stacy thinks. Then she says it aloud. Our job is done. She and Jim look at each other. They grin. They high-five in the car. Our job is done. Chapter 18. Moscow, Idaho, Friday, November 11th, 2022. The residents of 1122 King Road start pre-gaming at around noon for the Pi Phi formal. They have no intention of going to the official formal. That would entail a bus ride and staying sober beforehand in the sorority house. The older girls, who officially left Pi Phi the year before, wouldn't even be allowed in. The youngest 2, Dylan and Bethany, prematurely left the house to live off campus and are loyal to Maddie, Xana, and Emily, so they won't receive a warm welcome. It's picture time. They use a white shower curtain as a high-contrast backdrop for their LBDs, little black dresses, though Xana, who likes to be different, has donned a little red dress. Maddie poses for a photo with Dylan. Then Kaylee poses with Dylan. They post both photos on Instagram. The usual gang comes over. Emily, Josie, the Chapin brothers, Peter, Lyndon. Maisie pops in, but not Hunter Johnson. He is working over at the high school. Drinks are poured. More pictures are taken. 6 p.m. They're all feeling particularly festive because tomorrow is game day. The UI football team is playing UC Davis. Out on the back deck, Maddie films a video of the Chapin brothers, Emily, and Xana shotgunning their drinks. She closes with a cameo of herself pretending to look ladylike and shocked. It's funny. The group is well on their way to getting drunk. Though the Vandals hardly ever win, game days in Moscow are local celebrations regardless of the score. Everyone flocks to the Kibbe Dome. Everyone. Chief Fry is always there, so is the mayor, Art Betke. Parents with camper trailers host tailgating parties for the kids in the stadium parking lot. Tomorrow's weather forecast is bad, and the group has no access to a trailer tailgate. So the 1122 King Road roommates plan to party on campus instead of outside the stadium. Nonetheless, it's going to be fun. They take another swig of their drinks. Cheers to that. Saturday, November 12th, 2022. 8 a.m. Emily wakes up early and gets to the Dome by 8:30. She works part-time assisting UI football recruiting, which means she helps set up the stadium so that coaches can meet with visiting parents and official and unofficial recruits. She's annoyed to be separated from her friends. She keeps getting updates on their activities in group chats. Xana is rallying the troops on campus. 11:30 a.m. Xana summons people urgently to King Road. "Get over here," she texts Josie a dozen times. Xana puts her hair in 2 braids because Emily's not there to help her style it, and her roommates are busy getting ready. Everyone at UI knows it's essential to look good on game day. The 1122 King Road roommates take their time getting ready. They stick to tradition and drink champagne while they apply their makeup. Sexy casual is the unwritten dress code. By noon, everyone's gathered at the King Road house. Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, Ethan, Dylan, Bethany, Hunter Chapin, Josie, Lyndon, Peter, and Hunter Johnson. 1 p.m. They move the party over to the Whites, where Emily and Josie's rooms are and where the Afees have an apartment. 2 p.m. Xana tugs at Ethan's hand and tells him to come outside. Obviously, the residents of 1122 King Road want a roommate photo. They ask Hunter Johnson to take it. First, they arrange themselves for an all-girl photograph. Kaylee removes her Idaho sweatshirt for a sexier bare midriff look. Coquettishly, she kicks her left foot behind her. The members of the group look at her. Dylan, who has her back toward the wall of the Whites, is on one side. The others, Bethany, Maddie, Xana, hug sideways, lined up tightly. Hunter clicks away 15 times. "Higher? Lower?" he asks. Kaylee checks, finds a decent one, and posts it to her Instagram. Now they need Hunter to take a photo with Ethan in it. The girls joke that the picture is incomplete without their honorary roommate. "Landscape or vertical?" Hunter Johnson asks. The answer is easy. Vertical. Kaylee, now in her sweatshirt, squats down so Maddie can climb onto her shoulders. They can fit better in the frame this way, next to gentle giant Ethan. Dylan is on the left, Bethany on the right. Between them, Kaylee with Maddie hoisted high, and Ethan, who, as usual, has his arm around Xana. Hunter takes 15 shots on Kaylee's phone and hands it back to her. She texts her favorite to the group. Emily smiles when she sees it. She misses her friends already. She and Xana have hardly spent a day apart in 2 years. Kaylee forwards the photo to her mom, Christy, and to Karen Laramie, Maddie's mom. 3 p.m. The group returns to the AFI apartment, where Hunter Johnson, Ethan, and Xana are watching Auburn versus Alabama, a college game they find considerably better than the one in the Kibbe Dome. Hunter Johnson tells Xana and Ethan his sad news. He'll be leaving them at the end of the semester. As part of his graduate degree, he needs to intern in either Boise or Post Falls. "But you'll come visit?" Xana asks. "Bummer," says Ethan. He tells Hunter to think of it not as goodbye, but as a temporary separation. 4 p.m. Maybe because he's distracted, Hunter Johnson puts his phone down and forgets about it. Maddie and Dylan eye it and decide to have some fun. They pose up a storm and take dozens of selfies, imagining Hunter's surprise when he discovers them an hour or two later. 4:30 p.m. "You want to come with me to the game?" Hunter Johnson asks Ethan and Xana. He's going to meet Emily and bring her home when the game is over. Ethan pretends to be distressed. No one cares about the actual game, only the tailgating. "I can't," he says, fake crying. "I've got my sister's formal in a couple hours." "Asshole," says Hunter Johnson good-naturedly. He walks out of the room, having no clue it's the last time he'll see Ethan alive. 7 p.m. It's Theta's formal at the local brewery. Maisie is taking Ethan. Hunter Chapin is going with Maisie's roommate. Stacy, their mom, is so happy that the triplets are all together for Maisie's formal. She asks them to send lots of photos. She wants a full recounting of the evening. 9 p.m. Once the formal is over, Maisie's brothers try to persuade her to keep partying with them. But Maisie's tired. She asks her brothers to drop her back at the sorority house. Jim Chapin has told his sons that they always need to see Maisie home safely. The job comes with a perk. The Theta fridge normally has some pretty good sandwiches in it, and the boys get to help themselves before continuing their Saturday night. 9:30 p.m. The Chapin brothers go to the Sigma Chi fraternity house on Nez Perce Drive, across a field from 1122 King Road. Xana is there already. 10 p.m. The fraternity party is in full swing. Ethan wants his friends to enjoy it with him. "Where are you?" Ethan texts Hunter Johnson and Emily. Emily is in bed asleep, exhausted after her day working at the football game. Hunter Johnson texts Ethan that he'll be over when she wakes up. He doesn't feel comfortable leaving her. Most unusually for a Saturday night, Josie and Lyndon are also home asleep at the Whites, in Josie's bedroom next to Emily's. It's been a hard 24 hours of partying. 11 p.m. Ethan thinks about who else of his group is missing from the Sig Chi party. His sister. "You are so lame," he texts her. He hates being separated from her. Maisie doesn't see the text until the next day, when it's too late. Sunday, November 13th, 2022. 12 a.m. In downtown Moscow, Kaylee and Maddie are together, jammed inside the Corner Club, a popular bar the size of a 3-car garage. The Corner Club is always packed, but on a game day, it's heaving. It might be a windowless box, but it's Moscow's windowless box. This is a small college town where people look out for one another. Mark Trivelpiece, the club's owner, keeps a careful eye on the customers. He's been in business too long to make rookie mistakes. Underage students like Dylan and Bethany won't pass the Moscow cops' strict protocols about IDs. A team of kids from Greek life work the bar, discreetly watching for anyone who's getting sloppy or might need help getting home. One of them is Adam Lauda, friend, fraternity brother, and roommate of Kaylee's ex, Jack. 1:20 a.m. The best friends have had enough. They're tired and hungry, and more than a little inebriated. I told Adam everything, Maddie says of Kaylee's quandary with Jack. Kaylee throws up her hands, concerned that Maddie has overshared with Adam, the guy behind the bar. The friends swerve as they make the 8-minute walk to the main street where the grub truck is always parked. Food. They need food. 1:30 a.m. At the grub truck, Kaylee orders a carbonara mac and cheese for her and Maddie to share. They know the guy in the hoodie who's standing behind them, Jack Showalter. He's an occasional visitor to King Road. He's a good guy, they think. The girls flirt a little with him. Kaylee asks if he's interested in going to another party somewhere, but he's tired. Speaking of, so are they. It's been a long day. They need a ride home. Kaylee texts a designated sober driver. 1:50 a.m. Hunter Johnson texts Ethan to ask if he's still at the Sig Chi party. Emily is still asleep. 1:56 a.m. Kaylee and Maddie head back home to King Road. They chat in the living room. Dylan is in her room, wasted. Bethany is in her room, asleep. 2 a.m. Ethan responds to Hunter Johnson that he and Xana are still at Sig Chi. Approximately 2:15 a.m., Xana and Ethan return home. 2:15 a.m., Kaylee and Maddie chat on the couch a little longer, and then go upstairs and collapse on Maddie's bed. Murphy, Kaylee's golden doodle, is in Kaylee's room. Kaylee often leaves him there when she's out. For the umpteenth time, Kaylee tells her friend she's unsure what to do about her ex, Jack Ducour. They start texting him. He lives only 3 doors down. Kaylee misses him. She wants him to come over. 2:26 a.m. Kaylee phones Jack. He's asleep and doesn't hear her call. She calls a second time. She calls a third time. A fourth time. A fifth. 2:44 a.m. Kaylee calls Jack a sixth time. Then Maddie phones him 3 more times. He sleeps through all of them, blissfully unaware of the imminent danger. 2:52 a.m. Kaylee tries Jack one last time. 3 a.m. Emily wakes up at the Whites. So, too, do Josie and Lyndon. Josie realizes she's left her phone in her car. She goes to get it. It's foggy out, she thinks. It's dark and quiet. When she comes back, Hunter Johnson gets up and locks the door to the apartment. He doesn't know why. He's never done that before. He and Emily go to sleep. No one thinks to text Ethan or Xana. They assume everyone is asleep. In fact, Xana is awake and scrolling on TikTok. She orders DoorDash from the Jack in the Box in Pullman, the only place open at that hour. 4 a.m. Xana's food arrives. It ought to be the ordinary end of an ordinary game day. Except for Maddie, Kaylee, Ethan, and Xana, it isn't. 4:17 a.m. Dylan is in her bed, drifting in and out of a fitful post-game day sleep. The walls of her bedroom are so paper-thin that earlier Dylan could hear almost everything Maddie and Kaylee and Ethan and Xana were saying as they chatted on the couch in the living room. Next thing she hears is the familiar stomping as they go up the stairs. She can dimly hear music from one of their bedrooms. But then, everything turns surreal. Not sure whether she's dreaming or awake, she thinks she hears someone frantically say, "There's someone here!" Huh? That doesn't seem right. And yet it also does, because so many people come in and out of 1122 King Road. She gets up and opens her door a crack. Nothing. Dylan goes back to bed. But then she hears someone crying. Is it Xana? She gets up again and opens her door a fraction of an inch. She hears a male voice say, "It's okay. I'm going to help you." There's a thud, and Murphy starts to bark. Dylan shuts her door again. Is she going crazy? Now there's silence again. She opens the door a third time. That's when she sees the firefighter. Or at least, bleary-eyed, that's what she thinks she's seeing. He's got bushy eyebrows. He's wearing a mask. He's holding a firefighting object, a bit like a vacuum. They make eye contact for a split second. She shuts her door and looks around for her taser. The battery is dead. Bethany. She tries calling her friend downstairs. Nothing. But then, thank God, Bethany phones her back. Dylan tells her she thinks she saw someone, in black, masked. Their call lasts less than a minute. Dylan then calls Xana. No reply. She calls Kaylee. Nothing. She calls Bethany again. They speak for 41 seconds. Dylan is breathing heavily. She's terrified. Has she gone crazy? Is she hallucinating? Then Bethany phones Xana. She also gets no answer. Dylan tries Maddie. Nothing. Bethany phones Ethan. Nothing. At 4:22 a.m., Dylan texts Bethany the tragically obvious, "No one is answering," and then, "I'm really confused right now." She texts Kaylee again. "Kaylee, what's going on?" There is still no reply. On the lower level, Bethany switches to Snap and then back again to text message. She texts Dylan, "Yeah, dude, WTF?" Then, "Xana was wearing all black?" It's a question, not a statement. Dylan replies to Bethany's texts. To the former, "I'm freaking out right now." And to the latter, "No, it's like ski mask almost." Bethany writes back, "STFU. Actually." Dylan's fingers trip on the keys as she types, like he had something over his forehead and little and mouth. There's no time to fix typos. "Bethany, I'm not kidding. Oh, I'm so freaked out." Bethany, "So am I." Dylan, "Phone is going to die. Fuck." Bethany tells her, "Come to my room. Run. Down here." It's 4:24 a.m. Can Dylan run? Is it safe? Dylan tries Ethan's cell once more. She and Bethany have another quick exchange. At 4:27 a.m., she tries Kaylee again, then Xana. Still nothing. Dylan makes the decision to run. She sprints to Bethany's room. The two friends cling to one another. They keep trying to reach their roommates. Bethany tries Maddie twice, then Kaylee twice. Dylan texts Kaylee. Bethany goes on Snap and Instagram looking for clues. Nothing. 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 It's 4:37 a.m. Exhausted and terrified, the two girls pass out. Neither of them falls into a deep slumber. Bethany wakes at 7:30 a.m. and calls her parents, telling them both about the strange events of the night before. Maybe, she tells herself, Dylan just had a very bad dream. Dylan comes to around 8 a.m. and also tells herself she had a very bad dream after drinking too much. She immerses herself on Instagram for a couple of hours. The house seems quiet, calm. She agrees with Bethany. She must have hallucinated the whole thing. Around 10:23 a.m., when it should be time for the others to start waking, Dylan texts Maddie, "Are you up?" There's no reply, but that's not abnormal. Dylan dozes off again. Over an hour later, she rouses and also texts Kaylee, "Are you up?" Nothing. Now she's starting to panic again. Was it all not a dream? At 11:49 a.m., Dylan calls her classmate and Pi-Fi's sister, Jenna McClure, and asks her to come over. Then she phones her big, Emily, who is at her apartment having breakfast with Josie, Hunter Johnson, and Lyndon. "Can you come over?" Dylan asks. Something weird happened last night. I don't really know if I was dreaming or not, but I think there was a man here, and I'm really scared. Can you come check out the house? I texted Xana and the others, but no one's answering. I'm in the basement with Bethany. Emily laughs. Dylan can get really, really drunk. This is not the first time she's heard a story like this from her little. Ha ha, should I bring my pepper spray? She asks. Emily gets up and goes looking for a sweatshirt, and when she comes back, she sees Hunter Johnson has already left the apartment. Hunter makes his way up the steps into the house. He heads up the stairs and sees Xana's bedroom door slightly ajar. Unusual. He opens it. He sees her lying inert, as if she's fallen backward on the floor, face up. There is blood everywhere. He takes in Ethan on the bed behind her, facing toward the wall. Hunter's heart is about to explode. He doesn't go any farther into the house. He turns around, goes downstairs, and says as calmly as he can to Dylan and Bethany, "Call 911 and stay outside." He takes a breath, goes back up the stairs, and heads to the kitchen, across the hall from Xana's room. He opens a drawer and takes out a kitchen knife. He's terrified. He's about to re-enter Xana's room when he hears someone coming up the stairs. It's Emily. He stops her. "Emily, I don't think Xana's going to wake up," he tells his girlfriend as softly as he can. She doesn't understand, but something in his expression chills her, and she stands still, rooted to the spot. "I'm going in to take their pulses," he says, knowing already that he's too late. But he goes in anyway, and after he's done that, he checks the closets for any sign of the murderer. There is none. Emily has gone downstairs. He follows and waits for the cops in the living room. Hunter says nothing to Emily or to the others who are outside. He's trying to protect these innocents from both the sight and the reality. But he already knows the horrific truth. Xana and Ethan are dead. Hunter doesn't know if Kaylee and Maddie are even in the house, but he fears the worst. The devil has been at 1122 King Road, and he has no idea why. Part 2. Inception. Chapter 19. Saylorsburg, Pennsylvania, 2013. The 3 teenage boys are racing through the trees, pretending they're Marines. This is the Poconos. Racing around in the woods with knives or guns is normal here. In these dense woods, the kids can play paintball all day, and airsoft, and they can hunt critters, and they can lose one another for hours on end. 2 of the boys don't notice exactly where the 3rd boy, a tall kid with bulging eyes, positions himself. They don't see if he's close to the house or even inside it. The house is invisible from the road. Its owner, Mark Bayless, a former Navy SEAL who is the father of one of the boys, bought it for precisely that reason. He liked its remoteness, that it was surrounded by woods. Mark is a skilled hunter, of animals, but also of men. But even though he's a Special Forces veteran with skills and experience, he cannot catch the person who is repeatedly stealing his knives, his coins, his prescription pills, his girlfriend's jewelry. It maddens him. He keeps calling the cops, but they are worse than useless. They show up, file a report, do nothing. So Bayless stays frustrated. Could the thief be one of the veterans he houses nearby as part of the charity he founded? That's a bad feeling. He doesn't put it together until years later that the thief must have been one of his son's friends. He doesn't see it in the moment, but he's sure later how it happened. The first time, he believes, the tall, pale kid who weirded him out waited for the others to run off into the trees, then forced the lock and entered the garage where Mark kept his collection of army knives. and took one. On the next visit, Mark thinks, he took another. One by one, they vanished. Next, it was Bayless's coin collection, worth $25,000. Bayless talks to his son Jack and his nephew Brandon about the thefts. He says he's going to catch the thief if they try again, shoot him. Jack tells the third kid, whose name is Brian, that his dad is pissed. Brian tells Jack he reveres his father. That's what he says, or at least what he puts in a text. But what he does, or what Mark thinks he does, smacks of something different than straight-up hero worship. Someone starts to stalk Mark Bayless. The stalker hides in those trees, camouflaged, munching on Reese's peanut butter cups, dropping the wrappers on the ground, waiting for Mark to leave on one of his orange motorbikes or in his pickup truck. The stalker forces the door open with a knife and heads for the bathroom, where Bayless keeps old prescription drugs. And the thief can guess where he'd keep jewelry, in the bedroom. One time, the thief is up in the bedroom and hears wheels in the driveway. Bayless is back. Later, much later, Bayless puts the scene together in his head. He comes to believe that Brian, knowing he has the element of surprise on his side, hides, waits for the veteran to walk toward the back of the house, then sprints out the front door and into the woods he knows will protect him. Through the trees and onto the road. Safe. For now. Chapter 20. Broadheadsville, Pennsylvania, Fall 2012. When the tall, thin man and the fat teenage boy enter his boxing gym near Big Cheese Pizza off Route 209, Jesse Harris thinks this is a familiar sight. Anxious parent bringing in troubled child. The former pro boxer opened this gym here for precisely this reason. He thinks of himself as having a dual role, physical fitness guru and mental fitness guru. Jesse set up the gym to offer local people who've given up, teens mostly, hope, purpose. Anyone who's failed in life can make it in Jesse's gym. Boys looking for brotherhood, girls looking for sisterhood or to learn self-defense. Anyone who's prepared to work, to train. Jesse is proud of his results. There are regular stories in the Pocono Record about the correlation between the work done in his gym and the reduction of crime in the area. Years after they've trained with him, people stop him in the street or wave him down in his car to express their appreciation. It makes Jesse feel great. Today, the lumbering kid who barely makes eye contact lets his dad do the talking. The man introduces himself as Michael Koberger and says with forced brightness, "This is my son, Brian." He says Brian wants to lose weight. He's changing his habits, his life. He's going to start a vegan diet, but he needs to build muscle, speed up his metabolism. The father's clearly a nice guy, Jesse notes, but a talker, hardly pausing to breathe. He tells Jesse he's got his own HVAC business, works for the Pleasant Valley School District. He glances around the gym and tells Jesse he'd be happy to help with any maintenance issues for free, fix a refrigerator, that sort of thing. Jesse says he can help Brian, as long as Brian is prepared to help himself. He tells Brian, whose eyes stay glued to the floor, that he can use the gym daily for as long as he wants. The other guys in the gym look at the fat kid and roll their eyes. They've given up on him already. He'll never fit in, they're thinking. Jesse wonders if they are right. He, too, isn't sure about this kid. But the next day, right after school, the kid appears, swinging his backpack off his shoulders. The gym is an easy walking distance of the high school, but his dad drops him off. Jesse's regulars ignore the kid as he gets to work. No one else in the room is anywhere near that size. He must be more than 100 pounds overweight. Jesse shows Brian the gloves, and they do basic pad work. Jesse stands on one side of a face-size ring hanging from the ceiling, and Brian stands on the other. Pow, pow, left, right. Though his bulging eyes can't seem to stop moving, the kid looks focused. His considerable body weight goes into the punch. Jab, jab, 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3. Jessie can tell that the kid likes the rhythm of punching. They all do, Jessie thinks. That's why boxing is better than therapy. The kid is surprising. He's back the next day. Jessie shows him the power pad. The kid stands on it and pulls the bands up to his sides. If he keeps at it, Jessie tells him, he'll be able to pull the bands over his head. And the kid comes back, again and again. Every day the dad drops him off, coming in to chat with Jessie if the coach has the time. He mentions that Brian's had trouble in school. He's been bullied, doesn't like their new house. His friend Jeremy was a bad influence, and they've had to separate them. Jessie notices as the days pass that Brian is getting leaner and more focused. He spends 2 to 3 hours at a time in the gym. It's almost as if he's got nothing else to do, Jessie thinks. He probably doesn't. Now, when the dad comes in, he tells Jessie he's proud of his kid. Jessie tells him he's proud of Brian, too. The kid's no bother, not to Jessie or anyone else. Keeps to himself, works out, then leaves. The regulars start to acknowledge him. Hey, Brian. He's one of them. For now. Chapter 21. Effort, Pennsylvania, April 2013. Casey Arntz is playing a video game, The Sims, on a Friday night when she gets a text from Brian Koberger. She smiles because she likes Brian. That's a bit of a controversial stance in her friend group. Brian has had his ups and downs with her younger brother, Tom, who says Brian likes to get physical for no reason. One of Tom's friends, Brandon Andriola, says Brian has a temper. There's also the fact that Brian hangs out with Jeremy Saba, who Casey thinks is a dick. And Saba is known to be a junkie these days. But she likes Brian. He may not say much, but Brian has always been sweet to her. He's solicitous in his texts. He always asks her how she is. Most recently, he's been asking about her work at the glitter manufacturer in New Jersey, about her career plans. She wants to go into interior design after college. Casey knows Brian's plans. He graduated high school early, in March, and wants to go to college, maybe East Stroudsburg University, in the fall, to study criminal justice. Tonight, he's texting Casey because he needs a favor. He tells her his car broke down, and he has to get to his cousin's house near Luna Rosa, a restaurant in Broadheadsville that's a 20-minute drive up Route 209. He doesn't say why. Casey says fine, she's happy to help Brian. She feels sorry for him, that he's stuck all the way up in Indian Mountain Lake in that weird gated community. It's a full mile from his new home to the security guard's booth. So she gets into her car and drives the 3 miles up the mountain to meet Brian, who's waiting for her outside the security gate. She drives him to Luna Rosa. He pops in and out of the restaurant, then asks if she can swing by CVS quickly because he needs to buy needles for his aunt, who is a diabetic. Casey thinks that's a bit weird. Shady, actually. But it's hard to argue with such apparent compassion. She gives him the benefit of the doubt. When he's inside CVS, she thinks fondly of the times they've joshed together, like when they used to play the Game of Things with Tom and Brandon, a party game where players guess who wrote which anonymous answer to prompts like, things you shouldn't say to your mom. She misses those happy times. A few days later, he remembers to text her happy birthday. She thanks him, as she always does. But when she next sees Brandon, he tells her it's common knowledge that Brian gets heroin at Luna Rosa. That's why he needed Casey to give him a ride there and back, and why he stopped to get needles at CVS. Casey feels sick. She realizes that most likely she was carrying heroin in her car. Had she been pulled over, she could have been arrested. Now, Casey is mad. At 7:49 p.m. on May 21st, she sends Brian a Facebook message, a rare instance in which she is driving the exchange, not him. I would like to hand you a big congratulations for lying to me about driving you around. I should have added up beforehand, but I thought I was doing something nice for someone. So thank you. If you would have gotten caught, I would have gotten in trouble just for driving you around, not even knowing why. Needles for your aunt? Wow, real great story. Bye. A full day later at 8:33 p.m., he responds, I'm in rehab. I know that, Casey writes back. She receives no reply. But as the weeks turn into months, she forgives Brian. How could she not? He's back from rehab and he's so patently lonely. He texts her repeatedly to ask if her parents will let them hang out, and when she doesn't respond, his texts become sadder and less frequent. In early 2014, Brian tells her to be proud that she's making something of her life. I'm not, ha, he writes. Casey wishes that she could be nicer to him, that they all could be nicer to him. He seems to be struggling. On March 27, 2014, nearly a year after the car ride to Luna Rosa, he sends a text. You know I love you guys. Always will, even if we stop talking one day. What is Brian talking about? What does it mean? Chapter 22. Indian Mountain Lake, Pennsylvania, 2014. Michael Koberger doesn't want to make the call he's about to, but he has no choice. His own son is a threat to the family. None of it has worked. Not the boxing, not the diet, not the trips to the gun range, or the move away from Jeremy Saba, Brian's childhood friend, who has gotten into heroin too. Not even a stint in rehab. Brian can't stop using, which means he can't stop stealing. Now he's taken Melissa's cell phone and sold it at a mall kiosk for $200, half what it's worth. Actions have consequences. Children, whatever their age, need to understand that. So he closes his eyes briefly, then dials 911. The police arrive, read Brian his rights, and cuff him. The kid is civil, barely looks at his dad. He knows who called the cops and why. There's a time to be calm, to talk to the police politely. Brian knows that because he's only 16. There's a good chance this will be expunged from his record if he behaves. He'll go, again, to rehab. Outwardly, he'll be the good, polite son everyone wants. But inside? Alone in the basement, Brian lets his true feelings out on Tapatalk and SoundCloud, writing, recording, and posting an original rap song made for other sufferers of visual snow, a neurological condition that is the visual equivalent of TV static. The rage, the loneliness just pours out of him. The words are layered over a beat that is equally staccato and furious, a track no one in his family is likely to hear. But this is the real him. Always the same thing that disrupts my life. Wonder when I'll change, I guess when the time is right. Procrastinating my deranged change would be a fight, so I'm pacifist, like I'm afraid to get a bloody fist. Look at this, my mind is pissed and I keep running. Why is this when I hit it always leaves them stunning? I stuck in the future, but I'm never looking at the fucking present. Keep it up, act like you're all that. Leave your loved ones crying like some seagulls. You are not my equal, you are evil, but I'm unintelligible. People, evil, devil. And now I'm going regal. Don't fuck with us. Hope you learned your lesson. Chapter 23. Indian Mountain Lake, Pennsylvania, August 2016. Brian sits in the basement. He's out of drugs, of cash, of friends. Now his mom is on him to go to Bible study with her. She thinks that will fix him. He's gone a couple of times. A text beeps on his phone. Brian reads it. Maybe there's something to the Bible stuff after all. This is divine timing. Jeremy Saba has been arrested for a DUI and possession of drugs. He's in jail. One man's misfortune is another's opportunity. Brian calls a familiar person. "Connie," he says to the woman who picks up. She trusts him. Wrongly. "Brian," she says, and thanks him for what she assumes is a call of condolence and support. Jeremy's mom tells him that she and Jeremy's dad will visit their son tomorrow at the jail by the courthouse in Broadheadsville. As Brian hopes, the trusting woman shares the time they're planning to go. Would Brian come visit Jeremy right after? Brian says yes. But as he ends the call, he might have been forming his real plan. Connie later said that the Saba's absence from their home gave him the perfect window to get what he needed. He used to live next door, so he knew the house, knew where Connie kept her jewelry and where she left her iPad, things he could sell to get his next fix. And he knew exactly how to break in, through the garage. The next day, he executes the plan perfectly. As Connie and Jerry's Saba leave the courthouse in Broadheadsville, Connie wonders where Brian is. Why hasn't he shown up? He sounded so concerned and solicitous on the phone. Something Jeremy once said nags at her. Brian is manipulative. When the Sabas pull up to their house in Effort, she sees at once why Brian didn't come. Someone has been in their home. The door from the garage has been forced open. Her iPad is gone. She doesn't need to wonder who the thief is. She knows. Will she call the police? Her fingers hover over her phone. She thinks about Brian's mom, Marianne, a teacher who, like Connie, works in the local school district. Marianne has in the past occasionally and uncharacteristically shared some of Brian's struggles with her. There was his Asperger's syndrome diagnosis and, later, the drugs. She puts the phone away without calling anyone. She doesn't know any of the specifics, but she intuits that the Koberger family is in enough pain right now without Connie Saba adding to their problems. Chapter 24. Effort, Pennsylvania, 2018. She hasn't seen him in months. Then she turns and suddenly there he is, in her kitchen, standing there, unannounced, startling her. Jeremy's mom, Connie, isn't even sure which door he came through. He is just there, tall, well over 6 feet, towering over her, eyes bugging out. And he's thin, she notices. Really, really thin. "Brian," she says, "what are you doing here?" Even as she asks the question, she knows the answer, because she knows what they teach in rehab. He's come to atone, to make amends. He's come to say he's sorry for stealing from her. "I knew it was you," Connie tells him. There's much more Brian could say. That he's started working toward a psychology degree at Northampton Community College, that he's lonely, he misses Jeremy. But he doesn't say any of that. He doesn't get the chance. After he's done apologizing, Connie thanks him, and then, with as much kindness as she can muster, Connie asks Brian to leave and never come back to the Saba house. She needs to protect her son from the tall, newly thin former neighbor. Maybe, as he claims, he doesn't do drugs anymore. But somehow, she senses that he is still a threat to their family. Chapter 25. Center Valley, Pennsylvania, 2018. Brian's new classmates in the psychology program at DeSales University call him the Ghost. There's something spooky about him. Every day he enters class in the same uniform, a wrinkled black long-sleeved button-down and a tan leather jacket. He's always carrying his silver laptop and a Starbucks coffee cup. After class, poof, Brian's back in his car and gone in a cloud of dust, starting the 45-minute drive along routes 78 and 33 back to Effort for his nighttime security guard job. And any other job he can get. A lab partner, Josh Ferraro, likes how organized Brian is with their biology project, testing how caffeine affects the heart rate of water fleas. But the guy's eyes seem unnaturally wide open, and they're constantly darting around while his face is completely still. It's unnerving, Josh thinks. Josh notices that Brian becomes less aloof and more animated in psychological sleuthing, a class taught by Dr. Catherine Ramsland, a famous criminologist. But it's fair to say they all love this particular class, because it's fun. Dr. Ramsland takes her students into a building they call the crime scene house. It's like a theater set. The students pretend they're detectives called in to investigate a crime. They're given a scenario like this. The gun was found here, there was brain spatter on the roof, 2 bullet holes there, and a rifle was in Johnny's hands. Then they're asked to theorize as to what happened. Dr. Ramsland teaches her students that killers get tunnel vision when they are committing murder. That's why mistakes get made. Amid the high adrenaline and hyper-focus on the act itself, killers can forget things they otherwise would not. Brian takes careful notes. He will later write in an essay for his finals that he's learned staging is common among killers, and that investigators must wear fiber-free clothing to avoid having their DNA contaminate the crime scene. The DeSales students also study criminal profiling. They learn what sort of person chooses what sort of murder weapon. Typically, Ramsland tells them, white men choose knives. They are taught about digital forensics and learn that it's almost impossible to delete one's digital footprint. And they learn about procedure and law. For example, how the legal process would likely play out if one of them was charged with murder. Not that anyone thinks that would happen. Most of the students expect to go into law enforcement. Brian is no exception. He texts his friend Jack that he wants to catch high-profile offenders. Dr. Ramsland emphasizes to these future crime fighters how difficult it is to spot the killers in their midst before they strike. She's an expert on serial killers like Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, and Ed Kemper. She wrote a book based on her years of correspondence with Dennis Rader, the infamous BTK killer, whose moniker stood for his grisly methods: bind, torture, kill. Rader, she tells the class, did not kill for 15 years while he was busy raising his own child. How to differentiate between him and us? Dr. Ramsland says there's a new theory arguing that psychopaths aren't the product of socioeconomics and environment alone. Biology has a larger role than people previously thought. The brains of psychopaths are structurally and functionally different from other people's, which means the only way to cure a psychopath is to get him therapy at a very early stage, by around age 4, and try to train his brain to change. Brian listens carefully to this and takes more notes. His classmates can't see what he is writing. Chapter 26. Center Valley, Pennsylvania, 2018. The image on their screens is mesmerizing. A dark-haired 22-year-old man with movie star looks sits behind the wheel of his black BMW, his head tilted to one side. His face is bathed in the reddish glare of a setting California sun. He talks slowly, thoughtfully to the camera, as if to hypnotize his viewers with his words. "Tomorrow," he says, "is the day of retribution. You forced me to suffer all my life. Now I'll make you all suffer." His name is Elliot Rodger. He's from a wealthy family. He flies first class. His dad is a well-known movie director. He appears to be blessed in many ways. But he's still a virgin, and he's furious about it. In the video, one of a series he recorded in May 2014, he delivers a message to all the girls who have rejected him since he hit puberty. Hours later, he embarks on a murderous rampage. In his apartment, he stabs his 2 roommates, Chung Yuan, James Hong, and George Chen, and a friend, Wei Han David Wang. Outside the Alpha Phi sorority house near the campus of UC Santa Barbara, Roger fatally shoots two women, Catherine Cooper and Veronica Weiss, and injures a third, Bianca DeCoke. At a local deli, he shoots and kills another young man, Christopher Michaels Martinez. Then he drives his sleek black BMW through the crowded streets of nearby Isla Vista, shooting indiscriminately out the window. He injures 13 more people before crashing his car and committing suicide with a single bullet to the head. Not only did Roger meticulously plan the mass murder and suicide, he also broadcast his scheme in a series of videos on his YouTube channel. If you hit the mute button, you'd think you were gazing at the next Tom Cruise. But if you unmute, to all the girls that I've desired so much, they've all rejected me and looked down upon me as an inferior man. I hate all of you. I can't wait to give you exactly what you deserve. In fact, Catherine Ramsland explains to her forensic psychology class, Roger had waited. His ultimate act of vengeance was carefully thought out, the result of years of pent-up anger about his lonely life. He kept a journal outlining his sexual and social frustrations and his various coping mechanisms: video games, late-night drives, trips to the gun range, buying lottery tickets, a new life in Santa Barbara. But none of it gave him sex or girls or the friends he so craved. When he lost his only childhood male friend, he was triggered and began to plan the diabolical end. He intended his final act to be so performative that it would catapult him to global fame. The last words he wrote in his journal were, "Finally, I can show the world my true worth." Roger titled the 137-page manifesto, "My Twisted World," and emailed it to his therapist, who sent it to his mother, who received it minutes before her son began his killing spree. At the time of Roger's day of retribution, he was seeing multiple therapists. The month before, his parents had reported his troubling mental state to authorities, and the police visited his home. But as Roger was well aware, the law was narrow and precise about grounds for search warrants. He wrote in his manifesto, "If the police would have searched my room, found all of my guns and weapons, I would have been thrown in jail, denied the chance to exact revenge on my enemies. That wasn't the case, but it was so close." Professor Ramsland explains that the police need better training to spot the telltale signs of a potential suicidal mass murderer. One key tool comes from the American Association of Suicidology. Each letter of the acronym "Is Path Warm" represents a warning sign. I, ideation. S, substance abuse. P, purposelessness. A, anxiety. T, trapped. H, hopelessness. W, withdrawal. A, anger. R, recklessness. M, mood changes. As they learn this, the students don't realize that one of them, Brian, exhibits every single one of these symptoms. No one person has full visibility on all the parallels between Brian's life and Roger's. No one knows about the complaints Brian texts to Jack Bayless about life on Broke Bachelor Mountain. He describes himself as a good Catholic university student, full homo. No one knows that, like Roger, Brian is a virgin who hates women. No one knows that Brian copes with loneliness by immersing himself in video games. Like Roger, he goes for night drives. Like Roger, he visits the gun range. And, like Roger, he goes to a local bar and tries to pick up women. Chapter 27, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, 2019. Instead of heading back to Effort on the highway, Brian takes the scenic route through the Lehigh Valley. 15 minutes after leaving Center Valley, he's parking across the street from the Seven Sirens Brewing Company, which looks more like a vast Manhattan loft space than a college town bar. The students from nearby Lehigh University come here often. Brian knows this. That's why he's here. Elliot Rodger wrote that he kept trying to place himself in settings where he could pick up women, but no one noticed him. Brian must think that surely he'll be noticed. Women must spot his looks, his intelligence, and they must want him. They don't. So typically, after a few drinks, Brian pushes his way into unwanted conversations with both female bartenders and female patrons. He even asks for their addresses. Women have started complaining to the brewery's owner, Jordan Cerulnik, about the creepy guy with the bulging eyes. So he put the kid on his watch list. Tonight, Cerulnik isn't going to give Brian the chance to have more than one beer. "Hey," he says, "I need you to leave women alone. There've been some complaints." Brian feigns astonishment. He gives a heck of a performance, almost Broadway level. Cerulnik will remember and demonstrate it in the future. "I don't know what you're talking about," Brian says. "You have me totally confused." Brian takes another sip of his beer, and another. It's like they are playing a game of chicken. Brian finishes his beer. Casually, he saunters out. Cerulnik doesn't know if his words have had any impact, but as the days tick by, he registers something that makes him happy. The kid doesn't come back. Chapter 28. Effort, Pennsylvania, 2021. Brian is immersed in studying for his master's degree. Even though he's been stuck at home working remotely thanks to COVID, he's doing so well that one of his professors, Michelle Bolger, wants to recommend him for a PhD in criminal justice at Washington State University. She's only ever recommended one other person. Brian is feeling elated. But soon after March 16th, his phone pings with the news that Jeremy Saba is dead. The facts are tragically familiar. Saba was found upstairs in his bedroom. A lethal dose of fentanyl killed him. Extraordinary what a small pill can do. Earlier, he had been tinkering with a car in the driveway, then drove off in it to go get some oil, he'd told his mother. Minutes later, he was home, and then dead. The local police took his phone and computer, but they never found the dealer. Brian is away when Jeremy dies. His parents had wanted to keep the news from him until he returned because they knew how hard it would hit. All that's left for Brian are memories. Memories of Jeremy as high as a kite, making them all walk the yellow brick road, the dotted, painted lines on the highway. Jeremy driving his Mazda. Jeremy playing video games. Jeremy working out. The last time Brian's parents saw Jeremy, he'd been doing well, apparently. Mr. and Mrs. Koberger had run into Jeremy and his parents at the Texas Roadhouse, a steakhouse in Stroudsburg. It was a good meeting. Brian's dad told Jeremy he was proud of him for getting clean. Now, Brian pounds the table with his fist. He doesn't phone Jeremy's parents. He won't even attend the memorial service for Jeremy, or contribute to the memorial page online. He knows that the tipping point for Elliot Rodger was the loss of his best friend, James Ellis. "If only he were still my friend," Rodger had written of James. Brian gets it. If only Jeremy were still alive. Chapter 29. Pullman, Washington, April 2022. Chief Gary Jenkins, head of the Pullman Police Department, looks at his list of questions and then up at the intern candidate he's Zooming with. The name of the guy staring back at him on the screen is Brian Koberger. Jenkins has no idea where he's from or where he's situated for their online meeting. He certainly has no idea that just last month, Koberger purchased a K-bar knife, sheath, and sharpener on Amazon for unknown purposes. What Chief Jenkins does know is that Koberger is an incoming graduate student and teaching assistant in the well-regarded criminology department at Washington State University. WSU, or Wazoo as it's called, is in Pullman, so it's on Jenkins's beat. Koberger has applied for an internship with the Pullman PD. Chief Jenkins can see the guy is hyper-focused. Not much else stands out about him, good or bad. But there's something odd about him that makes Jenkins say later he didn't think this guy would be able to build trust in his department. There's something antisocial about him. They chit-chat for 30 minutes. Chief Jenkins winds up giving the internship to someone else, and he doesn't think much about the guy after that. Barely remembers his name, even. Brian packs up his gear, his new knife included, and gets in his car for the long road trip to the other side of the country. WSU is in Pullman, Washington, on the border of Idaho, the Pacific Northwest. Elliot Rodger gave himself one last chance before planning his day of retribution. He moved cities, went from LA to Santa Barbara for college. I realized that my miserable, lonely, virgin life was going to continue, and my only hope was to give Santa Barbara a try, Rodger wrote. Brian puts the key in the ignition. One last try. Chapter 30. Pullman, Washington, late August 2022. It's the week before classes begin at Washington State University in the small town of Pullman. The little airstrip Pullman shares with nearby Moscow, Idaho, is just a 7-minute drive from the hilly campus. WSU is a large school, much larger than UI, with over 30,000 students. WSU territory is marked by the massive billboard bearing the logo of the Cougars, WSU's football team, who are competitive in their division, unlike Moscow's Vandals. But football is not the school's only selling point. This August, WSU's famed criminology and criminal justice graduate program has attracted an international elite bunch, a self-described cohort of 11 students, 7 women and 4 men, who will be pursuing master's or PhD degrees. One student comes from South Korea, another, Sa, is from Bangladesh. Leon is from Taiwan. At a meet and greet with the 20-odd faculty members, the students pile their paper plates high with mounds of Panda Express and size one another up. They make small talk and learn about their differing areas of interest, ranging from cybercrime to human trafficking to police militarization and domestic terrorism to drug crimes and drug courts. One person says he studies maps, a subject the others can't quite fathom his interest in. At 42, Ben Roberts is the second oldest in the group. He suspects he's the only one from the West Coast. He looks at the others' serious, scholarly demeanors and thinks he's probably the only one who has ever used a chainsaw. Ben notices one of the students in particular. His name is Brian Koberger. Brian stands out because he's painfully thin. His eyes move too quickly, and the bags under them are dark and too prominent for someone his age. Ben also notices that Brian never takes off his jacket, even in the August heat. Ben assumes, wrongly, that he needs insulation on account of his willowy frame. Ben does not know about Brian's history with heroin. He doesn't know that Brian might be keeping his forearms covered in public to hide the telltale track marks of his past addiction. Ben is flattered when Brian comes over to chat with him. Brian is doing a PhD, which makes him senior to Ben, who is in the master's program. Brian asks a lot of questions about Ben's background. The conversation kicks into high gear when Ben tells Brian that he worked for the TSA. He was head of security at a small airport. Brian lights up. "I've worked in security too," he says. "Cool," says Ben. "Where?" Brian becomes vague. "Oh, back home." He doesn't say where home is exactly. Ben shares some experiences he thinks Brian might have had himself. He tells Brian that there were times at the airport when he found it particularly inelegant to have to exercise access control. That is, having to tell people who believed they had clearance to enter a certain area that in fact they didn't, and then barring their path. "Did you have any of that?" Brian nods vigorously. Ben continues, And the worst I found is when people do have the clearance, but they haven't got the right paperwork on them. It's so embarrassing to have to stop them going through. I know exactly what you mean, says Brian. Ben wonders for a split second if that is, in fact, true. It felt like he might have been stretching, he later said. But at the time, Ben went with the flow. Brian seems very articulate, Ben thinks. He spits words out with the fluency and confidence of someone who expects to be listened to. Ben has no idea that Brian is, in fact, giving a bravura performance, playing the role of someone he has never been, namely, someone who belongs in the room. The silent, awkward introvert has been replaced, for now, by a confident, articulate intellectual. Brian might be figuring that at WSU he can start fresh, become the man he dreams of being. No one needs to know about his troubled past. Brian turns from Ben and makes a beeline for the group of senior faculty members. Like a Wall Street CEO, one by one, he pumps their hands and works the room. I'm Brian, he says, and I'm excited to be here. Chapter 31. Pullman, Washington, early fall 2022. The cohort is sitting in a circle in a classroom in Wilson Short Hall. It's the third class in the research methodology course taught by their toughest grader, a red-headed French professor named Amélie Pedneau, whose expertise is in sexually violent offenders. Brian is in the seat next to Dr. Pedneau, on her right. He takes this seat each time because he knows it means he'll be called on to present his assignment first, as the professor makes her way around the circle. Brian appears to like going first. He appears to think it gives him an advantage over all the Beckys in the room. Becky is a term used in the manosphere chat groups Brian is familiar with. Brian knows all about incels, that is, involuntary celibates. Incels are members of a movement of frustrated men, all virgins, that sprang up on 4chan in 2014, just hours after Elliot Rodger committed mass murder and then suicide, the act that Brian studied back in Professor Ramsland's class at DeSales. The idea of the movement, started in Rodger's honor, is that one day the incels will succeed in their beta revolution and overthrow the Beckys, Stacys, and Chads who have managed to make the betas feel so small and rejected. The group is increasingly associated with violence. Brian looks around the class. These women could all be considered Beckys, defined by incels as feminists who dye their hair, post stupid opinions, and need to be the dominant ones in relationships. By contrast, Stacys are stereotypically nubile, used to male attention, prolific on social media, and date hunky, rich Chads. According to incel lore, Beckys need to be put in their place. After Brian gives his presentation, the Becky next to him starts hers. He leans in, closely, paying attention. As soon as she's done, he begins his offensive. He peppers her with questions that he appears to think show how smart he is and how dumb she is. Did she think about this theory? And what about that one? And had she read that book? She's getting annoyed, he can see that. Brian looks over at Ben as if seeking affirmation, but Ben looks away. Some of the women are visibly pissed. Brian doesn't seem bothered by their discomfort. Elliot Rodger would have been proud. Chapter 32. Pullman, Washington, fall 2022. It's been a long day. Brian is tired. He's sitting in the back row in the class of Dr. Hilary Mellinger, a recent graduate herself, who teaches a course on the role of cultural issues like immigration and homelessness in criminal justice. Brian isn't particularly interested in Dr. Mellinger's course. Incels might consider her another Becky. She is an advocate for immigrant women and girls who are fleeing men perpetrating gender-based violence by knocking them around. Incels are reportedly at the heart of rising gender-based violence. In 2018, a Canadian self-described incel, Alec Manassian,